Welcome to ImpactQA's latest episode of Digital Transformation. Today we're exploring a key question: where is testing headed in the age of AI? From AI-powered test case generation and self-healing automation to predictive analytics and smarter QA roles, we dive into how AI is reshaping every step of the testing lifecycle. Let's get started.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to our first episode of ImpactQA's podcast series. Today, we'll be focusing on digital transformation. Where is testing headed in terms of AI? From manual to automation to full autonomy, we'll explore how AI is redefining QA. I'm thrilled to introduce our CEO, JP Bhat, and our VP of Engineering, Nanny Kai, from ImpactQA. Let's get started.
Thank you for having us, Gabby.
Yeah, thanks, Gabby.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess without further ado, we can just go ahead and get started. Why AI now? Testing in a digitally transformed world. Digital transformation is pushing businesses to move faster, innovate quickly, and release continuously. So my question for you is, why does AI matter so much in this context?
Sure, I think I can go first. Well, first of all, AI is not a new phenomena. It's been there, as far as I understand, as far as I know, it's been there since the 1950s, almost 75, 80 years. Back then, when artificial intelligence, this term was coined, so it's almost an 80-year-old term. And if you remember, again, I remember it vaguely, but sometime in the late 90s, when Garry Kasparov, one of the chess champion, was defeated by this IBM's Deep Blue. That was a typical example of a major AI milestone. So AI has been there for good 75, 80 years. Over the years, the software industry has moved from waterfall to agile, and as we all know, there's been a pressure on product owners, the CIOs, CTOs, and everybody that is involved, top to bottom, literally, for delivering products that are better, faster, cheaper. Before your competition puts it out there in the market, you are under pressure to have your product go live. So keeping that in mind, the traditional testing approaches and test automation is not enough anymore. In this world of agile and continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, over the cloud, in the cloud, testing has to be real time, scalable, and also intelligent. And AI actually enables that, helps you deliver products faster, detect any risks that are out there, help you take smarter decisions and tighter feedback loops. Then you want to sort of elaborate it further. What's in your experience? Why are we talking about AI so much these days?
Yeah, so basically it's about shifting testing left and right. When we say shifting testing left means we want to integrate AI-driven testing earlier in the testing lifecycle. Some of the examples I can include here is intelligent test case generation, where AI can generate tests based on user story descriptions and the acceptance criteria that is mentioned in the requirements. We have seen some examples in our real projects where we are going extreme left in case of test automation. That is, the AI model can analyze design artifacts like wireframes, Figma prototypes, to auto-generate the UI scripts before a single line of code is written by the dev team. So literally allowing the test automation to begin in parallel with the development. And in the similar context, when we say shifting testing right, it means extending testing into production and post-deployment phases, where again, there also AI plays a critical role, because through this observability platforms enabled with AI, we want to detect autonomous anomaly detections, continuously monitoring the logs, how users are interacting with our applications in real time, and how we can identify some defects, some kind of performance bottlenecks in terms of how real users are using our applications. Not only this, it also helps in terms of optimizing our A and B testing, because now we can adjust our experiments we can do based on how an end user is getting engaged with the system and what are the health signals we are getting from the system. So in a nutshell, if I have to say that AI allows us to move towards predictive, autonomous, and continuous quality engineering. And this is what I believe that every digital first business need right now.
And as we explore predictive analytics testing, I have to ask, how are teams using AI to guide smarter testing in digital programs?
Okay, so here's the good news. These companies, software and product companies, over the years, they have gathered and accumulated a lot of data around their products that they've been developing. And hence, they are training these models, AI models, for example, on defect history and code changes to predict the risky areas. Today, AI can help you generate, and again, AI uses the data, it's its food and fodder, so to speak. It can generate heat maps and let the project teams know what areas of a software are more prone to defects, so that you can have your developers and testers focus on that part of the product rather than spending time on something that is working fine and doesn't need that much of attention. So they can proactively sort of work together on identifying defects in those areas. And not just during code creation and testing, but even during execution, if the AI agent, and again, this goes to a step further, not just using the AI, but then using multiple AI agents, what we call today as agentic AI, use that to detect the certain tests that are redundant. 15 years ago, you would have a regression suite of 1,000 test cases, and you would have an army of testers, or maybe 20 years ago, army of testers running those regression test suite day in and day out, without even, sort of looking at how many of these test cases actually make sense. How many of these are redundant today? AI does all that for you. You feed in that data and it will look at the historical data, and then it will tell you that, hey, of these 1,000 test cases, let's say 200 of these have never, ever failed. So what's the point of running those test cases? AI today can help you, identify all such tests, and then prioritize those, add more test cases, and focus on more critical areas. That way, I would, say that AI is transforming testing from, again, reactive to proactive. So it's no more reactive when you find a bug and then you start thinking, hey, where did this originate from? Was this failing in the previous 10 releases? AI does all that for you. So it's more proactive than being reactive. Right, Nanny?
Yeah, and exactly like when we get into pre-sales activities or when we are doing account mining or constant conversations that we are having with our clients, they also want us like, how do we start with AI? And our first step that we always suggest, and let's go with the risk-based quality orchestration. So where AI can analyze your historical defect trends, your analysis, usage analytics, change frequency, code complexities, in terms of you can go into a history like how your customers got impacted with your previous releases. And what it can do is it can help you to generate a heat map. That heat map can give you insights into, like in your product suite, which of the modules are at higher risk, which are at medium, which are at low risk. And based on the likelihood of failure that may happen or the business criticality. Eventually, this job is not done by AI, which eventually in the past it was done with the QA engineers spending those efforts. Now, by integrating this intelligence, what happens is that now test coverage can be continuously adjusted in real time. Like this not only result in faster cycles, it not only lowers the cost, but it increases the confidence that the testing is focused on the areas which are highest risk and the impact. And to the second point that JP mentioned about, undefined flaky test and redundant. So test optimization, again, it's a very important factor because as the test assets grow, because of bandwidth, because of, we are always constantly have to deliver something fast. So nobody's paying too much attention to, adjusting your testing, adjusting your test assets, identifying what is flaky, identifying what is obsolete. So instead of keep running that again and again and again, which is of no relevance. So again, test optimization is also an important point. So here AI ensures is that we test what matters and when it matters.
Great insight. And let's dive a little deeper into AI requirements and code analysis. So how does AI help in translating businesses' needs faster, something crucial for digital transformation?
Yeah, so natural language processing, for example, it can, NLP as we call it, it can scan ambiguous requirements in user stories. Today, there is enough technology available. You can feed a requirement document or a user story, any form and shape, a Word document, a PDF, to an AI, to a LLM, and then these trained models can help in auto-generating those test conditions, and not just test cases, but test data also today. Building traceability matrices, even aligning, those matrices that align to business risk. And again, there is enough technology today available that can help you write, let's say, a test script, even even before you have a single line of code written. You on a piece of, let's say on a paper napkin, you could draw a UI diagram and instruct these AI models, let's say using computer vision technology. You could literally write a test case and automate it. Like I said, you don't even have to have a UI in place, no line of code, but here is your test case right there in front of you. And I'm sure, Nanny, you would have some more examples to share. You're much closer to technology than am I, to be honest. You work with a lot of CTOs and CIOs, and you would have seen all of this. Your team must be using this, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So in our last digital transformation program, we had a requirement analysis with AI. So we used the AI models over there, which actually saved over 100 hours per sprint in test authoring time. So this was achieved by leveraging
I'm
natural
not surprised.
processing. Yeah. So this was achieved by leveraging natural language processing models, which automatically analyze the user story, the epics, acceptance criteria, business rule. It passed through the complete requirements that are there, and it identified the testable conditions, the edge cases, generated the draft of the test cases with expected outcomes. And now what QA engineer would do, he has this test case generated, he would just go and see what is relevant, what is not, with some minor tweaks it could do to the existing test cases that are generated through AI. It also helped in mapping the requirements, like the JP, you mentioned the point of traceability. And it also helped us in flagging some kind of ambiguous and missing requirements going through the user stories. So what happened, like instead of QA teams manually writing hundreds of scenarios from scratch, AI was able to give 70 to 80% of the initial test coverage automatically. This accelerated our test creation time. It allows the team focus more on validation, refinement, and exploratory sessions. It's equally very important because sometimes we find, some critical issues or some kind of edge cases only through exploratory testing. So this result was not only significant reduction in the manual effort, but also improved our test completeness.
Yeah,
and to your, sorry, I to cut you short there, but this is very similar to what NextAI does, right? This product that we developed some time ago, Nanny, correct me if I'm wrong, it again obviously goes into let's say the SAP ecosystem and any other enterprise platforms that you pointed to, and then pulls the test cases. And again, there is inbuilt AI and the LLM models, all of that fancy stuff that works behind the scene to generate those test cases along with the test data. And obviously it may not be 100% correct, but it gives you a jump start in terms of, let's say, 70% of the test case or 75, maybe 80% of the test data is really right there in front of you, helps you save a ton of time. Instead of having 10 testers writing so many of test cases and then, scrambling for test data last minute, you have it 70% ready. So you probably need, let's say, 20%, 30%, maybe 40% less effort, right, Nanny?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So as we discuss intelligent testing, more so scaling with speed, continuous change is the norm in digital transformation. So my question for you guys is, how does AI reduce script maintenance?
Okay, so again, Nanny is probably a better person to answer this question, but here are my 2 cents on this. Self-healing, and I keep hearing about, from technology teams, pre-sales teams, CIOs, CTOs, director QAs. The concept of self-healing is out there, and it helps you adapt the test when, again, Nanny, you probably would know this better, but UI or DOM changes, no manual work is needed. It would help you keep your test suite stable during rapid releases. And there are companies that do hundreds and thousands of releases per day, in the era of digital era. Agentic AI, the AI agents can also identify when a test fails, so that predictive analysis due to a sort of minor issue, let's say a small UI change. So there is enough intelligence inbuilt in these AI agents and the models that you use, and they would then, again, agentic AI helps you make those decisions, take those initiatives, sort of multi-step tasks, and it would autonomously heal those test scripts to align with your updated application, and it helps you obviously reduce false positives and minimize manual intervention. Right, Nanny, is my understanding of this script maintenance correct? I would imagine it is right.
Yeah, JP. So now you can think of, the test automation that evolves with your product. So let's say, we need to understand how we understand the application. As a human eye, if I ask you to identify a profile icon or a cart icon, a login button, or a text field, you can do that. Whether it's on a web or an Android or an iOS app, you can quickly identify that. It's basically, if you go with the similar principles as eyes, there is a light that goes through the pupil, it hits your retina, it sends out some electric impulses through the optic nerve to the brain, and then Brave processes that information and creates a visual image, and then you can identify those objects. And once you identify those objects, then you know what you need to do with it. So if it's a text field, then you have to put something, you'll text something into that text field. If it's a login button or it's a link, then you will click on it. This computer vision technology works on the similar principles. Now, it understands the web application not in terms of their DOM changes, not in terms of their locators, not in terms of their properties, but it understands the whole application, the application that has been rendered. It parses the data in terms of the data that gets passes from that web application. It sends all those pixel data to the algorithms, the vision algorithms or deep learning algorithms that are written. Those process this data, and then they also do the same thing. They also work on the perspective. First thing is a perspection, that what I'm dealing with. It's a text field, or it's a web button, it's a link, and then it also classifies this based on these algorithms. So this means that your test suite isn't static. It's living, it's learning, and it's adapting alongside your application. So ultimately, what you get is a self-evolving automation that reduces risk. It boosts the speed, and it enables team to scale quality without scaling effort. And this is what we have seen, like some of our customers who are still using the traditional way of doing automations. Any kind of upgrades done to the UI, tremendous of our automations gets failed. Like it starts from 90% pass rate, it falls to a 40% pass rate just with an upgrade in the UI itself. So it's an important that, and that's what we are doing. We are now encouraging with our clients also to move towards intelligent test automation tools with has AI enabled into it. And this is the key for any fast-moving digital initiative.
Interesting. I didn't know the science and math behind computer vision, that the way you explained, Annie. That was, pretty interesting information. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into conversational AI and co-pilots. So what's the role of conversational AI in test democratization?
Okay, so in any digital transformation project that you do, cross-functional teams, their collaboration is 100% needed. All of them need to contribute to quality. Gone are the days when the testers were the only ones responsible for the quality. We all know it has to, test quality today is everybody's responsibility. The business analysts, the developers, the testers, and any support staff that is involved in the product development. So obviously the goal is to improve collaboration, reduce any bottlenecks, and like Nanny mentioned, help testing shift left, test often, test early. AI co-pilots allow non-testers, people like me, for example, to generate and then review and modify tests using, plain language. So you can literally have a business analyst, write a test case, somebody who's never written a test case before. So, and then, that's what I understand from this. Nanny, what are your thoughts? And I'm sure your team is for, on various projects is using Copilot and, similar tools, I guess.
Yeah. I think one of the important fact right now with more agility in the business is that it's very important to have a enhanced cross-functional collaboration between product teams, dev team, and QA team, even the ops teams, right? So in our enterprise project, our QA team used the AI chatbot, which generated the business-driven development scenarios directly from the requirements. This significantly closed the gap between the product team and the QA by ensuring that the scenarios that are being written are in the BDD format. They reflect the intent and the language of the business stakeholders. What made this even more powerful was that these AI-generated BDD scenarios were seamlessly fed into the automation framework. So now the automation engine used these scenarios as input to auto-generate the test scripts using the predefined step definitions. So we were able to build that kind of a cross-functional collaboration from the product through the manual QA to an automation QA. And then when it runs through a CI/CD pipelines, everybody could understand through that reports that which particular scenarios are failing, which in other way, when we were using, a normal way of writing test cases, again, it becomes hard for somebody we have to go and explain to dev or to the product, like what went wrong and why it went wrong. So this way it helped. Apart from that, these session-based scenarios also, like exploratory sessions that we are using, that also helped us to generate a lot of session information that we were able to fit when we were creating defects. In case we are finding an issue, we were able to identify everything from the session logs. We were able to plug them into the defect. And now everybody knows that at which step, what particular condition it failed and why it failed. It becomes easier for dev team also to analyze the defect. So actually it saved the overall engineering effort.
Yeah, let's explore that a little bit more. So as we talk about AI-powered defect triage, speedy defect resolution is vital in high-velocity digital environments. Is AI able to help with that?
Of course, yes. Like I said earlier, anything to do with data, and if you have data around it, AI models are pretty powerful there. So whether it is categorization of defects or bugs, as we call it, suggesting how many of the defects that were logged by the QA team are duplicates, doing a root cause analysis, in fact, is one of the greatest feature of AI, so to speak. And AI also plays a vital role in identifying, those fishbone diagrams and using that concept that what is causing these defects. So, technically the root cause analysis. And then, in my opinion, I would suggest QA teams to sort of use AI in all such areas of defect management. It's very, very powerful there. Theoretically, it brings down the mean time to resolution, as we call it. I think it's called as MTR or MTTR, something like that. And I'm sure, Nanny, you're seeing all of that in your projects, using AI, right? How do you use AI in defect analysis today?
Yeah, so basically, it's not only just it categorizes the bugs, it suggests the duplicates. It also helps in identifying the likely root cause of the issue. Because if you have seen some similar pattern of failures in the past and some similar defects were reported, it can tell you like what was the fix that was done in the previous release cycles. So what it helps you is that it can link that bug to the commits that were done in the past or to the modules that were failed because of this bug. What is the module getting affected using the graph learning algorithms? In a nutshell, it basically accelerates the entire feedback cycle. And this is because we have seen too much of time going into defect triage activities. Now what AI does, it brings in everything. It's all about insights that you get. And those insights help us to identify the problem, the root cause, the linking into it, and finally, accelerating the feedback cycle.
Sure. And now JP?
No. Yeah, I 100% agree with whatever Nanny said. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'd love your guys' take on advanced AI, more specifically enabling autonomous quality in digital programs. Let's start with autonomous test generation. So how is AI helping with test authorizing at a scale in digital initiatives?
Okay, so this is a little difficult one for me, but I'm going to take a shot at it. Today, as far as I understand this question, using LLMs or, user behavior analytics, AI can auto-generate, I would say, test cases for both functional and exploratory flows. You can feed a requirement document, like I said earlier, and it would generate test cases for you, positive, negative, edge cases. Right, Nanny? You probably would want to elaborate it further.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting one because we have seen that, sometimes the customer flagging issues to us. And when we are at times, the teams are not able to reproduce the issue because they don't have that level of configuration or the data, which is not sitting in the pre-production or the QA environments. So I think this enabling of AI is so helpful in a way that now it can go into the production logs. It can go into the observability platforms, get all the logs. It can help us identify from those logs, like how our end users are using this application. And in some of the cases, what it helped us in a great way is that we were able to identify some of the edge cases, which, because we don't have that real conditions in our real configurations and data in our sandbox and QA environments, it is very hard to think about those edge cases. But we were able to get through those cases when we get the production logs read through AI. So this is one of the great enabler, and it helps us now like how we can reduce our defect leakage or be more confident in terms of, instead of customer catching the issue, we can detect those issues in our QA cycles.
Sure. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's discuss non-functional testing. So what role does AI play in performance, security, and accessibility testing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because all this while we've been talking about manual testing and functional testing, but non-functional areas like performance, security, and even accessibility, for example. Let's take performance as an example. Today, AI models can help you spike a traffic, detect any seasonal patterns. So, for example, what would be the load on an airline's website during let's say 4th of July or holiday season, Christmas for that matter? It can auto-generate realistic load profiles and can, there's, like I said, enough intelligence today that exists in these AI models that can help detect anomalies and before they hit production, so you get to see it before anyone else gets to see it. And AI helps in static analysis, code reviews, can literally look at the code patterns. And that's where, AI is really good at. These LLMs are really good at. They can scan through hundreds and thousands and millions of lines of code that would otherwise take weeks and months to sort of do static analysis or code reviews. And so AI does all that for you, whether predicting any security issues or performance bottlenecks that you would see down the road. It can help you detect all of that in, let's say, the dev environment or QA environment. It can also auto-generate fuzz tests and simulate, attack vectors, mostly to do with, let's say, security testing based on, your historical threats. What are the threats that you've seen in the past, and it can mimic all of that and simulate an attack under a, let's say, a controlled environment. So yeah, and I'm sure, Nanny, like I said, you're much closer to technology, and with these project teams, you probably are seeing all of that being used in the non-functional performance, security, and accessibility space, right?
Yeah, so basically now that we are leveraging this application performance monitoring tools, and they are enabled with AI capabilities, so you don't have to tell those tools like where your application is deployed. It's on-premises or on cloud. What are the services running into it? Whether it's a database services or the front-end services, or it's a back-end services. AI detects on its own. So it learns the whole environment. It builds a whole topology in terms of on what environment the application is deployed, what are different services, what are different layers, and how they are talking to each other and how often they are talking to each other. And at the same time, when it happens, like if any kind of issue happens, like traditionally, people would try to understand, they will go into logs, they will try to understand like what happens, they will start digging into database logs or the application logs to understand what happened. But what AI does is that it detects you where the problem is. So it will flag you that information. It's pretty easy. Over the dashboard, you get, okay, there is an issue, and there is some issue happened. And through causal AI, it will identify what the problem is, whether it is something with the deployment happened, or there was some surface that was not misconfigured that created a deployment issue, or it is because of something in the backend layer. And once you identify the cause, you can even train AI further that how to correct that. And once it gets trained, so tomorrow or later in future, if you find a similar kind of issue happens, you don't have to tell AI what to do. It will go and fix that problem. So you can build up self-healing along with these causal AI scenarios with some Ansible script or any kind of Puppet script can be integrated. That if the wrong deployment happens, just revert the code and bring back the previous version. So this is for one of a project, like it was a banking app launch, and where the performance was one of the important parameter. So there we used AI performance modeling that helped us to prepare us for a 10x load spike during our onboarding week, because it was a new launch, and we know how this application, the bank was using this application. They were really moving their application to a newer technology. So understanding the users, their patterns, we were able to prepare ourselves better for that particular spike. At the same time, it also helped us in detecting a misconfiguration that could have led into a major, cross-site scripting vulnerability. So you can understand how important these things are when it comes to banking or fintech applications.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic. Let's discuss more on UI quality. So visual validation and test optimization. How does AI help validate visual elements, for example?
So AI is, in my opinion, again, like I said earlier, anything to do with data AI is pretty good at it. And with respect to UI also, AI can compare screenshots across environments, across devices. There are, people use different devices, different, layout and screen sizes, and across releases also, and it can detect even pixel level differences, fonts, colors, something that is difficult for a human eye to detect. AI is smart enough to detect all of that. Any alignment issues, again, human eye can, we can make errors, but AI won't. Responsiveness of a design, all of that is, AI is pretty good at all of that. And then with respect to, I think you probably asked test optimization also, Gabby, is that was part of that?
Yeah.
On test optimization, there are tools, enough technologies out there. I'm not going to name the tools right here. We're not marketing any tool as such on this call, but technology is there to predict which tests to run based on code changes. So you don't really have to run all those 1,000 test cases. If you've made quick code changes, AI can tell you, hey, you don't have to do all of these tests, rerun, and just focus on these 10, 15, and you're good. And historical results, it will look at all of that and then throw at you those specific test cases that need to be executed. It also helps you optimize test suites. For example, using AI can help you do that, helps you reduce execution time, and then increasing the defect detection. And then there are products that I know for sure are out there that provide you the test coverage, test coverage analytics and risk-based testing recommendations, so based on the risky areas, what to test, how much to test, all of that. And again, Nanny, I'm sure you and your team are using all of this to, doing the UI testing and test optimization, right?
Yeah, I think it's very important, JP, because without proactive management, teams often end up with bloated test libraries, which can be full of duplicate coverage or outdated scripts, or the tests that frequently fail, like the flakiness, which eventually slows down the pipelines and unnecessarily adds noise. So we are now leveraging these AI-based test optimization. So there are various tools and technologies that help us to do that. It flags the redundant and flaky tests. It also helps us, these are some of the obsolete test cases. So basically, it ensures that in our digital QA suite, everything is lean and maintainable over the time.
Yeah, well, this has been a fascinating and informative discussion. As we wrap this up, I do want to leave our audience with a couple closing thoughts. So my last question for the two of you, JP and Nanny, is where is testing headed in this AI-driven digital world?
Okay, so I'm going to take this first, Nanny, if you allow me. Testing should be, and Nanny, I'm sure you would agree, should be built in and not bolted on. And AI, in fact, enables you to do that. As testing becomes, more and more continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing happens. My advice to a CIO or let's say a QA director or a VP of engineering, whoever in your organization is looking at QA, my suggestion is go for quick wins. Let's say the low-hanging fruits, pick up the low-hanging fruits, automate triage, defect triage. I remember back in 2007, 2008, back in my Toyota days, we used to spend sometimes, literally hours triaging those defects and still not come to a conclusion whether it's really a defect and what should be the priority and severity of this defect. There were, we would leave the meeting room with no sort of we would not agree or we would not agree to disagree. We would just come out of the room and without even coming to a conclusion. But today AI can help you do all of that. No human intervention, gives you a fancy analysis of defects. Test maintenance, AI is pretty good at it. Regression, like I said before. Again, CIOs and QA directors should look for a platform, a quick, let's say a ChatGPT search could tell you what are those tools that are out there that AI enhanced tools that you should be using. Pilot those and then see what is working best for you, for your organization. Upskill your QA teams. Make sure that they are AI assisted and that they are using AI assisted testing and analysis. Integrate, let's say, AI into your CI/CD, test prioritization, all of that, and make sure that you have governance around it. So that's my advice for a CIO and those higher ups that are responsible for QA and quality. But for junior people, let's say software testers and senior software engineers, the guys who are trying to make a career in testing, my advice to them is that they should embrace AI and not fear that it's going to replace them. So that's not really happening. But they should be prepared for their roles to evolve significantly. Exploratory and UI, UX testing requires human intuition and intervention still. So there is still a lot that manual and functional testers will have to do, but their roles are going to evolve. What's your take on that, Nanny?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, JP. What I see is that currently, testing is still considered as an activity. And what AI will do is it will transform this testing from an activity to an intelligent assistance. So soon I could see is that AI will test, triage, and report, even improve the system autonomously. So in my opinion, like my last thought is that, digital transformation without AI in QA is incomplete.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've a lot to learn from you. Learned a lot from you, Nanny, today, for sure. So I should be doing more webinars and podcasts with you for sure, Nanny.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it was an insightful discussion. I think we also learned your perspective, being you sitting at such a...
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for putting this together, Gabby. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess that's a wrap. I do want to close out with giving, JP and Nanny a huge thanks for your guys' expertise and your passion on the subject. For those listening, if you found today valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any more episodes. If you're looking to dive deeper, check out the links in the description. You can visit our website and socials at ImpactQA. Share your thoughts or questions in the comments, and we can keep the conversation going. All right. Thank you guys both for your passion and expertise. It's been such an insightful conversation. We look forward to speaking to you soon.